back to the show. This morning, I was re-listening to my interview with Glenda Baker and John Rowland on really the power of giftology in preparation for the guy I'm going to introduce you today, because I could have just as easily had Matt on that same show, but it probably would have just been overpowering. And I thought, I want to do this separately. I really want you to hear from this guy. So before I bring him onto the show or formally introduce him, Matt Farnham, Team Farnham Real Estate in Las Vegas, ladies and gentlemen, talk about a market of distraction. And he's going to talk about how he is penetrating through that distraction and really connecting with customers in a super deep way. And you're going to be able to do the same. So heads up, a coaching member of ours for the last 5 years, 17 years in the business. Today, with a team of 3 agents and 3 client care team members. Very important language there, my friend, as you're listening. 3 client care team members. In 2020, they had 110 families put their faith and trust in them to help them buy and sell real estate. About 87% of the business came from the formal strategy from a macro and micro standpoint we'll be talking about today. So heads up, 87% of 110. That is a lot of business that, he has crafted and harnessed and, improved upon over a decade plus of this strategy. And of course, as I mentioned, using these strategies, he would call it the experience economy, which, he and I are both, excuse me, big fans of that book and the work around that, but he's taking it to the next level in real estate. This year, they're going to help 150 families buy and sell real estate. And I think about 2020, I think about people like Matt, I think about consumers today, and you know what it is? It's the flight to quality. When you look at the numbers right now in the US, for my friends around the world, right now, 50% of the agents, let's call it in the bottom half of the MLSs, are basically fighting over 9% of the commission. Think about that as I say that to you. That let's just call it 1.5 million agents in the US, 50% are basically fighting over 9% of the commission. And 91% of the commissions, as of right now, as we record this, I just got this data point 2 days ago, the top half, 50%, are doing 91% of the commissions. And what it really tells me is the consumer wants a better experience. And when they find it, they gravitate towards it, they talk about it, they share it, they refer these people out. And that's why I've got Matt with me today. So, hey, Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Tom. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, man. We've talked about this for a while, and I think again I go back to that John and Glenda interview. And as I said, I could have easily had you on that show, but I think it would have it would have overpowered John and what he was trying to accomplish. So thank you for joining me today and sharing your insight and brilliance. Would you take a second though and just take us a little back in time before we get into the hacks and the psychology and the why and the tactics and all the things that you do? Because for the person listening, you're going to want to take notes during this because, again, Matt is a beautiful soul inside and out, and he can also talk very tactically in terms of what you should do if you want to have more of this type of business. But take him back. Like before we started, I was like, how long you been married? How long in real estate? Like, give us a little optics on that.
Absolutely. So yeah, I was the crazy person that bought my first home, got married, and started my real estate career all within like maybe 60 days of each other in 2004.
Wow.
So my wife, Leslie, and three kids now, ages 12, 11, and 8. We've been married about almost 17 years here in a few months. So it's been a fun ride. Before that, I'm in Vegas. So service industry, I worked in hotels. I worked at the pool at Bellagio. I did fine dining in Bellagio, golf course service, things like that. So always pretty much in customer service jobs, which I think we were talking about this before the show started,
Yeah.
But what a perfect transition in my city for serving people at a high level in real estate. And,
so there's a lot I want to unpack in there. Let's talk about that service side first. We were chatting before the show for the person listening that, it's so natural when I meet someone, I'm like, what did you do before real estate? They're like, I was a nurse. I was a teacher. I worked in a restaurant. I was a bartender. Right? I was in client services. I was in another sales role in a service model. And I just think to myself, all they have to do is learn the language of real estate. And the odds are in their favor that they'll do just fine. But Matt, there's some people that work in the service industry that can't make the leap to a higher level product, to a higher level service. When you're looking back at the early days, Were you able to, like sometimes you meet a bartender and they have a bartender mindset, not a service mindset, not a, I'm in a people first business. And it doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or you're buying your first property. Like, I know how to take care of you because I get people. What are your thoughts on that?
My first thought on that is probably just a limited belief in. I'm just thankful I did it at such a young age, because knowing me and what I struggle with on a day in, day out basis now with limited beliefs, I think those people just need a coach. Because if I was making that transition now at the age of 39, I would see myself being scared to do that, especially with a family and things like that. So I would say seek out guidance. Make sure you're aligning yourself with a mentor that's going to be able to really show you the ropes, and you can ride their coattails. It's really hard, I think, to get into this business any other way nowadays, to really learn and have a chance to be successful.
Yeah. Interesting. I was with Tim Smith yesterday in a coaching session, and then driving around. He's like, I'll take you to the airport, just extra time with a good human being like you. And, we were talking about, I shared with him that 9%, 91%. And he literally, you could see, like, he was like, wow, I feel bad for new agents that maybe historically would have started their career and done open houses or some of these traditional things that COVID just simply eliminated. And then I think back to you starting in 2004 in Las Vegas. You were basically at the epicenter of the entire real estate meltdown. What did you do? Like when 2006-07 hit, like how successful were you in 2004, 5, 6? And then what happened and how did you navigate through it?
Yeah, so from the day I got in the business, it was always a business to me. I wasn't just like chasing where's my next closing coming from? So I think that really prepared me for those years. And business dipped. I mean, my first year in the business, I think I did 36 closings for almost 300 GCI, which was incredible.
Right.
But
that's
I mean,
by the way, that's incredible for your 10th year in real estate, let alone your first.
I've been super blessed, man, and super fortunate to have good people around me. But from day one, it was show up early. I was young, so I was wearing a tie every day, trying to make up for my age with appearance and things like that. But first one at the office, last one to leave, and that hasn't changed in 17 years. And yeah, business dipped in those years because I think I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't see it coming. I think I have a problem every day living like this, looking at what's right in front of me instead of slowing down and getting on that 30,000 foot view.
Yep.
But eventually I kind of said, okay, this is going to be a season here. And then I got into the REO game. So you look for opportunities. I've been HUD's #1 broker in Vegas for, I think, 11 years now. So, you got to find the opportunities, be a chameleon, and be ready to adapt. And so that's pretty much how I navigated that storm.
It's so interesting. We have so many mutual friends in this business that do such incredible transaction volume business as you do. And the number of people that have texted me over the last, maybe 3-4 months, like, hey, should I be recontacting my HUD contacts? Hey, should I? I'm like, first of all, you should have never gotten out of communication with anyone you had on the REO side or, the display, like any of that. Thoughts on that? Are you still active? Do you still see some of those transactions coming your way, or is that evaporated in Vegas?
Yeah, it's very few and far between. And I'm so excited about what we're doing now. I mean, we have tunnel vision on this client experience game. And I know we'll talk about, what we think the market's doing, what the future looks like, and why I'm all in on client experience. So would I say no to those relationships? Of course not. But it is not going to be my identity. I'll tell you a wake-up call I had. Maybe somebody can learn from this. But a number of years ago, I was selling a couple hundred REOs a year at that point. And I walked into my office and I had an agent of mine sitting with a client in the conference room, my client. And I'm like, oh, well, hi, it's good to see you. Well, thankfully, she at least had a relationship with her second choice at that time. And she's like, well, yeah, I know that you do so many of those bank-owned properties now. So she literally thought I didn't do regular sphere of influence business. And
right.
I had this punch in the face, like, when did I let my identity get wrapped up in something other than helping families? So I decided that day, never again.
Yeah, that lesson. I have had that punch in the face. I think every person listening has had that punch in the face. Mom, what do you mean? Well, honey, you're so busy, or you work the high end, or you work more rural, or you're in this part of town and I'm in that part. You're like, I could have helped you at least get the right agent you needed, right? Call me. But it's interesting. Like I was talking with this very famous therapist, like literally, Matt, like 40 years in family therapy, 30 years of a syndicated radio show. And I remember asking him, like, hey, what's the most common question you get? And he said, people would say to me, like, what are the top 4 or 5 reasons why most people have relationship issues? And he said, people don't have relationship issues. They have issues that they bring to their relationship. And I thought, it's this, when you said that, I'm like, yes, it's like, what is that issue? And you say identity, right? That so many people have, that we do so much to build rapport and to connect and to serve. And then it's like something became like a blind date. We're out, we're gone. I don't know if blind date's the right, maybe like one night stand, right? Like, what is that? And you were guilty of it. How did you overcome it?
Honestly, I've had a lot of rabbits I've chased through the years, but after the REO thing, then I did the brokerage thing. I own the company here with a partner, Gidget, and we were, if you had breath in your body, I thought I was supposed to hire you. So we were building the brokerage thing, and we God bless everybody worked with us, but we woke up one day and felt like we were kind of surrounded by mediocrity in a lot of ways, just didn't have the same goals and ambitions that we did. And then eventually I found my way about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, to go all in on Team Farnham, like where I can control the level of service that so this team thing's new to me. And I have to say, I do regret not having my eyes open sooner, because I can't imagine where we'd be right now with what we're doing and the focus. But it was a journey to get here. And now it comes from a spirit of gratitude. A couple of years ago, you get burnt out easy in this business, but we just started doing these wow closing experiences, and it became like gratifying for us. It became more fun. Yeah. And then we just said, you know what, how other ways can we show gratitude, and just really, and then it just blew up on what we started to scale and make, this is our identity, what we are now.
Yeah. So we're getting into some of the tactical stuff, but let's back up and unpack for people. What was generally speaking, I'm just assuming this, Matt, that something happened that caused you to say, wait a minute. And then maybe you read something, maybe you researched something, and you were like, okay, this whole client experience thing. So help us understand the origin story for you behind it. What was the problem you were looking to solve? And then what was sort of your original sort of vision for it? And then what does it look like today? And then for the person that's listening, I literally wrote down, like, he's got 6 things around buying and selling, right? And then I wrote down, there's another, looks like 4 tactics of how you deliver it. So we'll get into all of that, but just maybe help us like unpack what was the problem and sort of what was your macro vision or philosophy behind it.
Sure, absolutely. So I think the problem is the client demands more now. What gratifies me, what gets me going, is knowing I'm the best at what I do. And I was living at a place a couple of years ago where a lot of my attention was divided between the brokerage and between what I wanted to deliver as an experience to my own clients, and a father of 3 kids and a wife. They were getting the leftovers at home. That's what really drove me to say something's got to change. That, combined with your coaching in this talk about this experience economy. We were actually at a retreat in San Diego, I think it was. You had Steve Harney on stage, and he made a comment that just hit me in the jaw. He said, raise your hand if you truly believe you are the best in the business in your market or whatever. Of course, you have probably 1,000 people in the room who raise their hands, because why would we be there if we don't believe that? But I truly believe that that's what we deliver here. He said, then don't you think you have a moral obligation to tell more people about what you do? That just hit me in the jaw. Like, I do have a moral obligation to help more families with the level of service that I know that we deliver. So that, combined with your talks about experience economy, the client demands more, where the market's going, and then some books that really influenced me, Building Your Story Brand with Donald Miller. Yeah, that was kind of the viral book in our ecosystem, right? But it just made so much sense. Like, I'm not the hero of the story. Stop. Matt did it again. Matt said this. People don't care about Matt. They care about their own story and their family.
Right.
So that really started to challenge my philosophy. Raving Fans, Kim Blanchard, that's a classic. Always like that book. But one that really inspired me, that we still talk about a lot today, is The Power of Moments by Chip and Dan Heath.
Yeah.
Taking certain opportunities in people's lives, whether it's transition or elevation and things like that, to really create this unforgettable, magical experience. And we just kind of wrapped our hearts and minds around that. And all those things combined is how we started moving this direction. As far as the philosophy, sorry, I'm rambling on here, but
no, hey, brother, This is a podcast. Ramble away. This is cool. I'm taking notes like crazy. This is good.
I love it. Well, so the philosophy is, I personally believe that we're going to wake up, and I think you share this belief. You've coached on this, but we're going to wake up 5 years from now, and the game's going to be different. You're going to have really two models. I think you're going to have the chop shop volume based model, and I'm not going to name drops, but in Vegas we have the billboards, we have the radio ads, we have the commercials, we have the I'll buy your home for this. We're ground zero for what you might call disruption here.
Right.
Or you're going to have silver platter, white glove, value, service, extraordinary experience, and people will still want that. I am not interested in playing on this side. This is way more fun for me to deliver that type of experience. So we want to be ahead of the curve and start delivering that extraordinary, magical experience now, and not be chasing our tails 5 years from now when we wake up. And as you've said in the past, that tidal wave hits us. Hey, this is changing. We're trying to get ahead of it right now.
Right. You said so many things. I always remember saying to people, Walmart or Neiman Marcus, like, you know what I mean? Like, what client do you want to serve? I literally was in this conversation with Jose, who picked me up yesterday from the airport. And I'm like, listen to me, brother. Like, in the next 5 to 10 years, like, some people will be picked up by a car with no physical driver in it. And they will get in the car, and maybe like a Jarvis-like voice will say, "Hello, Mr. Ferry. Are we taking you home today?" I said, but a lot of us, we will actually pay more because we want the personal touch. But what we also want is the humanness, right? 100%. Like I could have anybody pick me up from the airport, but Jose has become this guy. Jose, if you're listening right now, I'm literally just talking about our conversation yesterday. Like, I love this guy. He brings me so much joy every time I've got someone that comes into Dallas. I have Jose go pick him up, and everyone says the same thing. That is the nicest guy on the planet. Yeah. Now, you might be saying, does that translate to real estate? My answer is, I think it translates to everything in business, everything in life. So you've just taken this and you've turned it into a methodology, a way that you do business. Talk about that.
Well, yeah, and here's what I think too, is that I believe that, so there's a lot of noise in Vegas specifically, probably Florida, for sure. Arizona, Vegas, like ground zero for the noise.
Yep.
I'm naive to think that my raving fan is not going to hear the noise, but I do believe they're going to be the last one to hear the noise. Eventually it's going to penetrate, and they're going to start hearing the radio ad and seeing the billboard.
Sure.
Right now, we talk about something with our team. It's called TINB. And if A equals B, price wins. If A is greater than B, price probably still wins, but the decision is a little bit harder. We should be to the point where we are delivering such an extraordinary experience, and just they know we're the best at what we do. On top of that, there is no B, TINB. And if they're driving past a billboard and it says anything related to real estate, it's white noise because they know who the realtor is. It's already, there is no B.
Yeah.
That's the game. That's what we're going all in on. And I'm naive to think they're not eventually going to hear it, but I'm okay with them being the last people to hear it.
Right. And it's so interesting. You and I are so aligned on this. A couple of weeks ago, I had like 11,000 people between clients and guests on Blueprint. And we were talking about, like, my prediction is half of every transaction in the next 3 to 5 years will have a referral fee associated to it, whether it's an arbitrage company or an agent referral, a relocation, or a broker generated lead, whatever it may be. But half going to somebody else because they attracted the client. And how did they attract the client? They took advantage of the fact that the vast majority of the people in this industry don't have connections with their database, right? Don't have marketing messages that stand out, don't have a client experience that like really draws people in. So you've solved for this long before, I started talking about this. So you said noise in the marketplace. You mentioned the word gratitude multiple times. You talked about some books that have influenced you. The thing that, there's so many things I respect about you, Matt. The thing when we talk, I know when I'm talking to you, I know if I was talking to somebody on your client care team, if I was talking to somebody on your sales team, I know I'm going to get the same experience. How did you translate that culture and that vibe and that language and that approach to a bunch of teammates that, maybe didn't come from the service industry, maybe, didn't walk in your shoes and have your path? How did you transfer, if you will, those values and skills?
I think it's been a process. It all started with, again, we started doing, these wow closings, and then we start doing client events, and then you just start dabbling. And I think I will say this, like, I don't recruit. I've never recruited before. I do think you just attract people who dig what you're doing. They're just aligned with that. And
Yeah.
I'd say everybody on our team just truly loves people, loves serving people. They get it's families, not houses. I mean, just gradual little subtle changes over the years where we put a board up on the wall. We're not putting numbers or houses. It's pictures of families as we are closing transactions. And
Yes.
just those little things like that, they're not leads, they're opportunities. These are people that want a relationship
Mhm.
with somebody to guide them through a process. That little subtle language shift, I think you just start to realize who's all in with that and who's not. And if you're not, you're just not gonna. It's just not going to work. You're not going to enjoy working with us, because if we're all about talking about money every day and this and that, it's just not. That's
Yeah.
not going to get us motivated to go serve another family at a high level and give them this wow experience. That's the focus.
Yeah. I love it. It's I've heard it so many times. Culture is language. Language is culture. That's what bonds us. So making those subtle shifts for the person listening, like think about what he just said there. As subtle as it was extremely powerful. Hey, we help families. We don't sell houses. Like
100%.
that, just that, Matt, is very different from, some of our friends that are very transactionally focused. And it doesn't mean they're bad people, right? Like they've got hearts of gold, they care, but they focus on, hey, I want to do 100 transactions or 50 transactions or 1,000 transactions or 5,000 transactions, whatever it is. And I believe again, for my friends that listening, like, wait a minute, Barry, I also care. I know, I'm just calling it out. So
Tom,
before we talk about the what and the tactics, can you unpack for us why three salespeople, why three client care, and maybe let's focus on the three client care. Like, what are their roles and responsibilities, so people can, before we say, man, I do this and this and this and this is how and this is the setup and this is what we do, they understand that you're not doing this alone, that you have carefully curated people that have similar values, and that's how you're able to execute like this. So just unpack for us the three client care people. What are their roles and responsibilities? Maybe a little insight on their background. Maybe it's a disc profile. Maybe it's a bank test, whatever it is. Help us understand who those people are and what they do.
absolutely. So the first two I'll mention. So marketing specialist, listing coordination. That's a little bit self-explanatory, but helps
Right.
us, bring homes to market, build the brand that we're doing, start to celebrate more of these moments that we do for clients on social and things like that.
Yep.
We're continuing to level up in that area. Uh, and then we have a transaction coordinator, of course, living in the transaction. But that's another conversation. Client experience is not just champagne and balloons. It's that transaction, that communication, that uncertainty
Yes.
brings anxiety. They always know what's happening. So we do that at a very high level. Like, we can talk about that. But the third piece is the one that most folks would probably be interested in, and that's we call her our client experience manager. If you know this, Tom, if everybody owns it, nobody owns it. And as we
Right.
started to try and scale this and make this kind of who we are and what we're about, we were dabbling and doing hodgepodge here and there, and it was great, but it was inconsistent. And until we really transitioned her into this role a little over a year ago, as full time, you own this, make the magic happen.
Yep.
That's when everything changed. So she's been with me for about 9 years, just flat out loves people. That's what you got to find.
Yeah.
She's a high S on the DISC test.
Good.
I think an SI or maybe an IS would do well in that role.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't need the limelight. She doesn't want credit. She just loves people, Tom, and she just
Yeah.
wants to make them happy. And that's what gratifies her.
Right. And she's got the S in her so she can follow up and be consistent and, follow the checklist and do all that. So transaction management, listing launch, all the things that we know. But you made a comment, you said it's not about like popping the bottle of champagne at the end.
Yeah.
It's about the client experience throughout. You also made a comment earlier, and I just want to unpack this. You and I are so aligned in this. I've been stomping for 10 years saying the consumer is demanding a better quality experience, which is why this industry is so ripe for disruption, destruction, whatever you want to call it. Give us an example of like something that somebody could add into their, once they open escrow or start the transaction. What are some things that you guys do differently that just have the client remove some of that anxiety, that stress, that uncertainty? Did I pick the right agent? Did we buy the right house? Oh my God, is it going to get, somebody told me recently, hey man, I got my offer accepted. And I was like, you're 180 steps away from actually moving in.
Yeah.
Sorry. He was like, you're kind of bursting my bubble, dude. I'm like, I'm just like, that's the reality.
You're like, wait for the appraisal, bro.
Exactly.
So many things you could do. I mean, the simple things would be, bring video into the game. BombBomb is obviously a great platform for that.
Yeah.
We do a lot of handwritten notes. So for example, little stuff, there's a quote that I love and it's on our wall, but there's no magic in magic. It's all in the details, right?
Walt Disney. Disney.
And you know what, where I stole that in one of your summit books years ago. Dude, that's so us, what we do. And another quote I love from Atomic Habits from James Clear is, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. So
yes,
it starts at like the first appointment. You're going to get a BombBomb video from me just saying, Tom, I'm so excited to meet with you. By the way, check out this quick little landing page and this Google form. If you fill this out for 1 minute, Tom, it'll help me bring more value to our conversation. But I'm finding out, what are you absolutely afraid from happening in your home sale? Describe the best experience or outcome possible. And you start to learn what's really concerning that client so you can address those concerns at the appointment. Right. Things like that, to where I already have a handwritten note in my folder. The moment I get back in the car, it's already stamped. My assistant's got it ready. I just write a note relevant to the meeting. I throw it in their mailbox 2 homes down, and they get it the next day. Yeah. It's all just, having this all planned out. And our mantra is, the phone rings for new business only, right? A client should not be calling our office asking for an update on their transaction.
Say that again, Matt.
The phone rings for new business only.
The phone rings for new business. That's a cultural thing. That's a language thing. Absolutely. Right? I mean, a lot of people right now are like, well, there's just no way. He doesn't understand my client. I'm in the high end. My clients are so much more demanding, right? I'm in the low end. I work with first-time buyers and they're totally concerned. Is that reality for you, or is that an aspirational quote that we fall back because of our systems?
It is an aspirational quote, being transparent. But I will say that we're committed to getting better every day, and we are getting better every day. And it's not often our client has to call and say, what's going on? The only gaps we have are those moments of the transaction where there's truly nothing going on. You're in that. Right. We still need to make sure that they just know that everything's going great for that time period too. But so the way that we do this is, we do walk clients through this digital transaction where they see in the pipeline what's next. We've talked about the Domino's pizza thing and that type of thing, right? But we also I have videos that I've pre-recorded for many steps along the way. So they're going to get videos about, hey, what is escrow? What is title? Hey, Tom, what do you as the seller need to know about the home inspection that's happening this week? And I speak to you, the seller. They're going to ask for all these things. You're going to get offended, and then we're going to calm everybody down, and we're going to come to a reasonable solution. And then I'm prepping you about the appraisal, and then what does closing mean? What's expected from you at closing? So you're constantly getting future paced and setting expectations of what's next in the process, where you're not wondering, what's next a week out or 2 weeks from now. It's easy stuff. It's just taking the time to actually put it together and build a system around it.
So if we just stop right there, literally, you could mic drop on that. I can just imagine like Michael D, who's my head of client experience and client care at my office. He'd be like, yes, every step of the way, onboarding, welcome, here we go, new video. And it doesn't have to be personalized. Like, hey, it's Matt, and I just want to say congratulations on your escrow, right? Or starting your escrow, buy side, sell side, whatever it is. Here's 3 things you need to know. And that just automatically goes to people in the checklist as a part of the process. Is it automated, or does someone have to actually say, oh, we just opened up an escrow? Or is it like in a BombBomb campaign, start, go? How does it work?
Yeah, it's in our CRM campaign. So we have a lot of tasks that are manual or automated, but we know when certain triggers hit, that one will go out. So it's kind of a hybrid of both, but they will get it somewhere between 1 to 3 days before the inspection, somewhere 1 to 5 days before the appraisal. So it works out pretty well.
And I'm just curious, just because I nerd out on this stuff, do you track and measure open rates? And do you ever look at like, oh, they didn't open it and they called with a problem?
So I'm an artist, Tom, not an operator.
I got to flip between two all the time as a CEO, brother.
I know, man. I got to level up in that area so bad. But you know what? The phone keeps ringing and we're busy. So I know that's probably not a very good CEO mindset, but it's working out.
Listen, hey, for everybody listening right now, you got another insight into why I have so much appreciation for Matt, because we are all a work in progress. There is no perfect brother. It's just getting better and better as much as we can every day, moving things forward. So let's talk about it. You mentioned uncertainty and anxiety. Walk us through, like, we were chatting before this, and you were like, basically, the buying and selling experience, there's like 6 things that we sort of look at, right? The removal of anxiety, which it sounds like we've covered. Survey, videos, celebrating moments along the way. Is that also a part of this BombBomb campaign, or is that something separate? Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So, a lot of the client experience we do is return on relationship. That's your phrase that you were just using last month, right? But Glenda is a good friend of mine, no accident, right? We're very, very similar. And
of course.
She says, love on the people who love you. And I love how she puts that. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do over the life of the relationship. But during the transaction, we also celebrate moments through that. So it's all operationalized. It's built into the smart plan. We know, at the groundbreaking, they're going to get groundbreaking cupcakes for new construction or different things like that. Here's something we do that's really cool. Anybody can do this real easy. But what's the worst part of a transaction for a buyer? What were they most scared of? Which one moment of that transaction are they freaking out about?
I'm looking at Ruby, my assistant, who bought a house recently. Ruby, what was the scariest part of the transaction once you got the offer accepted? She's like, that it wasn't going to close on time.
Okay. So most people, I'd say, it's the home inspection. They're probably
I was thinking, home inspection, but she had like Eddie, who's our guy. Eddie's like, I got this, Ruby, don't worry about it.
Nice.
But so whether it's that or yes, but keep going.
But so with the inspection, so we say, okay, if that's the most scary part of the transaction, how can we flip that on? And let's turn this into a positive. So what we do is something very easy, but we bring a little inspection goodie bag where we make it a moment. Right. And we bring a branded notebook and a branded tape measure and a pen, a bottle of water and a snack. And we say, hey, this is a fun experience. This is where you get to learn about your home. Let's take some notes. Let's measure. Let's start figuring out where the furniture's going. Yeah. And then we also talk to our home inspector partners, and we have like a little punch list. And Tom, in new construction, you probably know an NHO walk and new home orientation. Yep. They show you how the water heater works, and they show you how to unclog the garbage disposal. It's not just all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
So what we do on the back of the inspections is we take them through. The inspector knows he's going to have to kind of do this little NHO experience.
Yep.
So it's not all the summary report, which is 20 negative things. It's also get to learn your home. This is fun.
Right.
And it's almost like an assumptive close as well, too. I didn't think about it that way when we created it. That's my coach, Mike, who's like, hey, that's kind of, I was like, yeah, I guess it is, that works out.
Yeah.
But even those moments, moving boxes for the client, and then the signing experience where we bring cider and champagne. And so it's not all client events and pop buys and that stuff. That stuff's great, but it's in the transaction. That's when you start building the wow and that raving fan through those moments.
Yes. So much of this, and you're very, I'm not perfect at this. Nobody is, but you made this a repeatable and scalable process. It's one thing, there's one thing to do this at like 8 or 9 transactions, but to do it at 10 closings a month, or 15 in one month and 7 in the next, and keep this machine going. What have you learned about yourself, your team, the dynamics? What software do you use? Are there some better hard assets you use, or soft assets, software, etc.? What has made this process more repeatable, more scalable?
A few things. Number one, making sure your whole team's in on it. The culture, everybody's in. This is what we're doing. This is our identity. That helps a lot. Again, if everybody owns it, nobody owns it. The game changed for us when we put Kristen full-time in that position. Now somebody owns it, it's going to get done. And Monday.com is what we use for project management. There's a lot of great platforms out there. But yeah, absolutely. You say, Tom, if it's not in your calendar, it doesn't exist.
Yep.
That is true. But if it's not on some type of systemized, operationalized plan, it's just not going to be executed. So we do have all that built out. We actually do a content calendar for the entire year, not just marketing and branding, but we know already when we're going to send the first save the date and the invites and these for the events. Right. And we know
Right.
when pop buys are happening, when the fantasy football invitations are going out to do fantasy with our clients and this type of stuff. It's all built out in a calendar.
Yeah. So Monday.com for project management, calendaring all the experiences throughout the year. The stuff that that's now back to school, fantasy football, the Knights, right? I talked about hockey before. Woohoo! So let's go into there's 4 specific tactics that really have moved the needle for you beyond the transactional stuff, which I love. By the way, shout out to the CRM you use. Chime, love it. I actually sold a business of mine to the CEO or the owner, I should say, of Chime. Did you ever meet him? Joe Shin is his name. He started RenRen, which is the Facebook equivalent in China.
Okay.
So Joe, last time I was with him at dinner, which was probably 2 years ago, he owns something like 300 companies.
Wow.
It's bonkers. So that's great. Big shout out to the guys at Chime. That's great. All right. Let's talk about the tactical stuff. Community engagement, right? How do you do it? Support team, et cetera. Client experience manager, we should discuss. Marketing department, I want to go more in depth there. And then I want to just talk about surprise and delights. So let's just go first, community engagement, right? What do you guys do? What's the plan? What's the roadmap? You've already said, hey, we got a calendar for the year. So I assume there's a lot to unpack there. Walk us through that.
So that's the newest piece for us. And I'm thrilled, man. I'm so stoked about what this looks like for us moving forward. But there's a new community outreach ministry here in Vegas. It's called the Hub LV. But it's actually a umbrella, if you will, of 4 different outlets. Mm-hmm. And what's so cool about it, if any company is going to align with something like this, I have a heart for foster care. It's in my family. I have a lot of close friends that have been, fostered a lot of children and in that type of situation. Incredible. But, for whatever reason, not everybody wraps their heart around the same things. So we have done events where we partner with them and we invite those families to join us and things like that. And it's been amazing. But we found an opportunity that has 4 different arms, but it's all this outreach called the Hub LB. But it is foster care. It's also poverty and homelessness. It's also sexual exploitation and human trafficking, which Vegas is ground zero in America for that.
Right.
And then the 4th one is the vulnerable populations for education. So somebody's going to wrap their heart around one of those things every time. So our team is all in on it. And now the whole objective for us this year is how can we get our clients' hearts around this with us? So we just did our first drive a few weeks ago where we invited our clients to come by and drop off some things that are needed from these different, ministries. And then, of course, we gave them a little mini bundt cake and some information on the Hub. It's just hey, we love you. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah.
But how can we get them involved to serve with us, to help spread the word, to donate and things like that? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we are starting to make it known. Hey, when you work with Team Farnham, you're literally engaging the city of Las Vegas through these outlets because the first portion of everything that we make as a team goes directly to them before anybody gets paid. And the whole team's in on this because let's face it, Tom, a lot of times it's the CEO or leader who says it's a team thing or a company, but it's really Tom writing a check or Matt writing a check.
Right.
Not anymore. Like the whole team said, we're in. So before anybody gets paid, we're doing that. And now our clients are starting to learn about this. And not everybody's going to resonate with that, but I believe most of our people will love it and get really excited about at least contributing through us, if not engaging actually physically.
I love it. I go back to the word, a couple of years ago at the January lead, we're like, operationalize. It became the drinking game, right? Like every time Tom Ferry said operationalize, people were like, drink. But that's what you've done. You've taken this core value and then you've operationalized it with your team. You've made it a part of the fabric of how you do business, how you show up for others. And you're right. If it's just you writing the check, that's awesome. But when you say, hey, a percentage of off the top before anybody else, I know you said that a few times. You probably said that to a few clients before, right? This is how we roll. We make a difference first, then we take care of ourselves. Right. Maybe not the exact language, but the spirit of it. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
So I'm going to go a different direction just for a second. I was thinking about this morning with you, social media, video, mail, email, calls and texts, your Google My Business page, your setup on profiles. So let's start first with like, am I going to find you? They're going to find you on Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com, and you're going to be in all those places. Yes.
Of course. Yep.
And have you gone the route of advertising on those places and continued to? Have you pulled away from it? No knock against any company. Just curious where you're at today.
Yeah. So yeah, no knock about anybody, but Zillow and the like, I'm sorry. I would rather not pay 35% or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about us going all in on client experience and having such a large percentage. And one thing growing for us is our agent referral pillar. I love my friends across the country. I mean, Tom, just this ecosystem. In the last 3 days, I think we've had 3 inbound and 1 outbound with names I could drop right now that you know very well. Just incredible people, but
Yeah.
they are like-minded and do business like we do it here. I'll happily pay them 25% every day versus paying 30+% to other sources. So we've had those pillars. I've paid for leads and things like that, but it's not the same as hey, come list my home, or you know what I mean? It's just it's not fun.
I'm laughing not at what you're saying. I'm laughing because if the person's just only listening right now, they don't see your facial expression because you're like this. You're like, yeah, pay for it. The look on your face is like, yeah, I've done that, and I've done other horrible things. Like, but all right, let me back up though. With your own database and with your agent referrals, because I knew that was going to be something I wanted to touch on today. So I'm glad you've already brought it up. How do you use social, video, mail, email, calls and text and others to get the word out, whether it's to your database or, when you're trying to reach, if you will, outside of your database, when you're launching a listing and others? What do you do? What do you not do let's go social? Are you on every platform, and how active?
Yeah, really it's Facebook and Instagram for us. We might dabble in LinkedIn or something like that, but again, everything's a system. So when we bring a home to the market, for example, we know every listing is going to have a coming soon, just listed, under contract, sold, picture of the family with the testimonial on top of them. Yeah. Like that's going to happen every time. In
mail or just in social? Like break it down for me.
That would just be social in that example.
Okay.
And we also, when we do a mailer, we know that a mailer's going to go out. We're going to have a complimentary social ad to go with it, and that's going to be a campaign, and that's going to complement it. When we're really clicking on all cylinders, it might be a YouTube ad going out there too, with a video and things like that. So I'm kind of sorry, I'm all over the place here, but everything is pretty much planned out. As often as we get a great testimonial or we need to level up on video testimonials. We dabbled in the past.
Come on, man. We just talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. Everybody listening has to level up on that one, but I appreciate you, brother.
Yep.
But so what about email? What about email? Is that I don't mean as a form of like, hey, Matt, checking in. I mean, educational, listing launch, keeping people informed. If I was on your email list, how many times a week or a month am I going to get an email from you guys? And what am I going to get?
Yeah, so you're going to get a monthly market update where I'll do a video, usually about 10 minutes, and I'll really kind of unpack what I see happening in the market. Of course, the stats and those things, but also my personal opinion. People want your opinion. They look to you to be the expert. So I just tell them what I really feel like is happening and boots on the ground type perspective. They'll get that. They are getting educational videos from us. So we have a series. We're getting ready to pivot and switch directions on it. So it's been a couple months since we put content out, but it's called Real Life at Level 10 is what we were putting out. But it was really Tom, yeah, you did that with me.
I love it. Yes.
Level 10 conversations, but that was real, what happens if the appraisal comes in low? What is an iBuyer and why would I want to or not want to sell my home with them? And just real life educational information. So those would go out every other week. Of course, back to the social, we would take 30-second snippets out of that. We would distribute those in advance to build some excitement around it. Of course, the video would go out, and then we'd take a quote or two out of the video, and we'd put that on social. Yep. Honestly, just R&Ding stuff that you do, just not as good.
No, hey, listen, brother, we're all doing the best we can with what we got. I have an army of people that help, so it's you know what I mean. Like, if it was left just to me, it'd be my flip video camera, which I show now and then.
There you go. So that stuff, but then we do HomeBot. HomeBot's a great resource.
Talk about that.
Yeah, HomeBot is something that sends a email out every 2 weeks, and it shows you what your home value is. It also shows you What's cool is it's an engagement piece, because you
Yeah.
can look at what would it look like if I rented my home? What if I turned my home into an Airbnb?
Hmm.
How much equity do I have? What could I do with that equity, or what would it look like to refinance? And people can raise their hand to get questions answered about, is my home value look accurate, or what would it look like to refi? It's an engagement tool where they reach out to us consistently, and it
Yeah.
just creates a conversation. So they get those updates from us. And then, of course, just all the invitations to client events, all the invitations to serve with the Hub LB with us,
Yeah.
the invitations to do fantasy football with us. Like, there's always a reason to reach out. And Tom, I've joked with you about this, and I know this is not a Tom Ferry, game plan here. But honestly, man, in 17 years, I've never asked for a referral. We just
Yeah.
consistently stay in touch.
Right.
We provide as much value as possible, and the phone keeps ringing. So that's kind of how the game's been for me since I started.
100%. Like going back to the interview I did with John Rowland. He's like, if you just consistently provide value, and I was talking about, hey, there's a reason why I put all my content out for free long before anybody else. And the phone would just ring. People are like, dude, I don't know if they would call me dude or my team dude, but just for fun, but the message resonates,
Yeah.
right? When the message resonates, right? It's the old, your vibe attracts your tribe.
Right.
Right. And you could see that in the evolution of your business and your philosophy, and then the tactics that you basically implement. So Matt, switch gears and just talk about surprise and delights. Like, give us just sort of high level some tactics and things that you guys do that you found to be effective.
Sure. So I think there's really two main components to that. I think the way that we close on a home, whether it's the closing itself or a few weeks to follow, and then truly the random, just the unexpected wow, right? So
Yeah.
the closings, like, stop buying Home Depot gift cards, right? Nobody wants that, and a lot of people don't even need it.
Yeah.
But really figure out what's special to Tom and Kathy, like what's going to make their heart sing,
Mhm.
and maybe what's an experience that you can provide for them. So we put a lot of thought and effort into those. For example, let's say, Tom, you're new to Vegas. What if we got you a taste of Henderson, and we
Yeah.
tee you up with the best appetizer place, the best dinner place, the best wine place, and the best dessert place, with information about the restaurants and their ratings and their articles and all this stuff. And we do that. Or something really unique to you. We've set up Christmas in the home, like 2 days before Christmas. You come in, there's Christmas trees and gifts. We've
Yeah.
uh, so many things that we've done. Had the family show up with balloons and party, and all the grandkids are there with all these things that they colored and put on the garage for your welcoming, and like really just put some effort into this. But then the game changer for us of everything we do, the pop buys and anniversaries and all this stuff, is a surprise and delight. And that's as simple as, Tom, I just ran into you at the furniture store, and you're like, hey, I got to run. I'm taking Kathy out. It's our anniversary. Oh, that's awesome. Where are you guys going? Where are you taking her? You tell me the restaurant. In my car, 5 minutes later, we're getting a credit card authorization. Dinner's on us. Like, that is the game. And you
Yeah.
just get that unexpected reaction. We just talked in Dallas how we had a couple clients recently whose pets had passed away. So, we made that a moment for them and gave them a gift around that. And I'm talking tears, and text messages. And
Well, okay, break that. Well, like, someone's pet passes away and you make that a moment. That feels like a tragedy for a lot of people.
yeah, we're just empathizing with you, sympathizing for you, because a lot of people, to them, I mean, that's just like their kid, and of course, if they're
Right.
family members, same thing. But it's not obnoxious. It's just a little gift to say, hey, we're thinking about you. We're so sorry for what you're walking through. uh, but just recognizing those moments for people. And it's also
Yeah.
wedding anniversaries. And if I
Yeah.
find out you might get champagne and strawberries in your hotel room from Team Farnham if I know you're on vacation. I mean, it's highs and lows and all these things, but it's just
Yeah.
finding those opportunities, maybe by stalking your Facebook page of what's going on in your life, that you're having a baby, or these types of things, where you get just a little thought from Team Farnham saying, hey, we love you, excited for you, and that's it. There's no ask. It's just loving on people who love you.
And would you say, going back to the person you had that's been with you for 9 years, that's basically running this, is this like her full-time thing, stalking people on Facebook, looking for these magic moments, or is it that because the randomness of somebody running into you at Lowe's or Home Depot is pretty random, though you're a popular
Sure.
guy and you have a lot of clients, it's going to happen, but maybe not at scale. So how is it done at scale?
Yeah, so it's the team's job, Agents Collective, to to kind of let her know when these opportunities are. But what we just did, see, we're still figuring this out too. So nobody think we got this figured out, but she just created a Google form earlier this week where all I do on my phone, it's saved on my home screen. It's a gift form. So I basically say, here's the person, here's the moment, here's what I'm thinking. Run with it. And now she just has a systemized way that she gets these in from the team now. And then she just makes it happen. And she has her go-to. She knows the 20 things that she's going to go to for different moments to send that out, have that delivered. So it's manageable.
You know, it's interesting. You go back to anyone that ever stays at a Ritz-Carlton, right? You know, the Ritz-Carlton, first of all, the first thing you should do the next time you're at a Ritz-Carlton is ask any one of the employees, hey, may I see your card? And they will hand you a card that they open up. And it's basically the 21 or 22 values of a Ritz-Carlton employee and how they operate. And one of the things that I heard that was very special about that is they basically said, anybody in the organization can spend up to $2,000 to make a client happy. I thought that, I mean, so I wanted to ask you, like, does your gal have a budget, right? Is it like, don't spend more than $20 or, you know, max is 200? Like, have you operationalized that as well?
Not like definitively, here's a line, but she absolutely knows what's acceptable in different ranges because of what we've done enough of this now.
Yeah.
She's got the freedom to do that. And at the end of the day, the main filter is, how do we wow our client? And if that means it's an extra $50, who cares? Like, it doesn't, it's so small in relation to the impact it has.
Yeah. Well, Rulon said the same thing. He's like, you know, if you took 10% of your net and you reinvested that, he said, well, technically you're reinvesting the money that they helped you earn on them. And then it just gets amplified. And, you know, the 50x ROR versus direct mail's return on investment, email at 44, which is bonkers. So I love it. Okay. Well, I'm glad you were able to unpack that. Let's transition to another discussion. So talk about Google My Business, your GMB page, which I was on before we started. And you mentioned, I want to go to the next level with video testimonial. So maybe unpack that for, you know, the millions of people that were not with us at Blueprint versus the 11,000 that were. So why is that important? What are you thinking about? How are you going to operationalize it?
Well, one thing for us, because we're not on all these platforms that are, and we are doing like some Google advertising and things like that are working out great, but people are still going to go, even if you're referred to me, if Tom says, hey, you got to call my buddy Matt, he's the best, you're still going to look me up before you call me. Everybody does it.
Yep.
So Google's the game right now. I mean, you said that over a year ago, and we started paying attention to it. So the reviews are critical, of course. And then just the help that we just got about getting the images and videos and all this stuff. So we've been working on that the last 2 weeks.
Right on.
And that profile is getting better. The next level for us is getting a lot more video testimonials. And the thing with me where I really lack is we focus a lot on serving the client and providing this experience. I do need to be a little bit more selfish and say, hey, now I need something from you. And we haven't done that enough. Where we get those testimonials, because I mean, you saw my Google, what are we at, 86 or 95 star reviews? But dude, I should be at 500, you know, with the service that we provide. I've never been super diligent about, hey, Tom, you kind of owe this to me. You know?
Yeah. And look at, like everything else, like you say, hey, I don't ask for referrals. To me, like, it just needs to be operationalized. You know, like we talked about sort of those surprise and those dopamine rush moments, right? Like the offer's accepted, you just handed them their key, you're at the closing table signing everything, you know, you passed over the physical inspection, like all these moments along a transaction where a client is euphoric and fired up. Yeah. That's when we should be saying, gosh, Matt, you know what I would love to do? I'd love just to capture this moment, right? And for the people that are, you know, listening, if you weren't with us, my buddy Ken Carey, who is like the leading authority of all things direct to consumer marketing, specifically in the review-based culture, which we now know over 80% of consumers, right, will read a review or a testimony and take it at the same level of a personal recommendation. Think about what I just said there for the people that are listening, that 80+% of consumers will read something about Matt and his team and take that as strong as their best friend saying, you got to call Matty because, you know, he's the man. Like, he's just unbelievable. And yet most people haven't operationalized, how do I ask for that recommendation? And now we're saying, now I want you to put it on video.
Right.
So how do you plan to do that?
Well, I think here's the problem. And what we have done has been an issue is it's so easy now to default to digital, to do email and texting, things like this. But you got to pick up the phone and say, hey, Tom, could you do me a favor? I'm going to send you a link right now. Can I please get your commitment to do this for me? And
Yeah.
that's where we need to level up with some of those phone calls rather than just letting an email ask for it, because that's easy to just all get to it later type thing. But
Yeah.
so I think that's the biggest thing we need to change.
Yeah. So, your coach, Mike, will be listening to this. And he's going to be like, noted. For the people that are listening, I think it's literally like this, like, oh my God, Tom, Kathy, so excited. We're closing on this transaction. I just want to catch this moment. Let me ask you a question. If I asked you 3 or 4 questions, would you take a minute and just answer it for me, like in the form of video? And by the way, like raw and real, don't worry if you say or like we're all human, like nobody's perfect. And they're like, sure. And a percentage of the people will say absolutely yes. And you grab your phone and you're like, so Matt, what was the problem you were trying to solve in buying your new home? And, we ran out of space and I got 3 kids and, right. And they tell you the why, then you're like, and how did you ultimately end up selecting us? Oh my God. Well, I was referred to you but then I looked online and I read a bunch of your reviews and I just felt comfortable that you could do it. Well, what results were we able to produce for you? Oh my God. It was like a breath of fresh air. Like the moment Matt and his team showed up, we hadn't even said yes yet. And they were already doing all the work. We just felt like so comfortable. Like, listen, my friends, having 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 of those on your Google My Business page to be able to run in advertisements, to have on your own website. And Matt knows, because I challenged a bunch of the top teams, in the country. I'm like, the next level of this, there will be agents, teams that have hundreds of these videos on their website, on their Google My Business page. And you want to talk about creating a position in the market that is hard to penetrate, to the point of Matt and I's conversation earlier. Matt, like I'm more convinced of that than I've been of many other marketing tactics or strategies or methodologies. Because at the end of the day, who sells Matt Farnham better than Matt? I would argue his clients, and they don't use real estate lingo. They talk emotion, family, dynamics, certainty, uncertainty. They use these words that just, we would never think to write that because we're in that real estate transactional mode.
Right.
So what's the commitment, brother, between now and Summit? When I see you in Dallas, what's the commitment? What are you going to do?
First thing we're doing is I don't have a number to it, but how about I say 20? 20 of our best clients that are top of mind to say, hey, I need this favor, even if they're 2, 3 years old,
Doesn't matter.
To get the content on there and get it on the website and things like that. So by Summit, 20 videos on Google.
All right, Ruby, you heard that, right? 20. So Matt's going to have 20 video testimonials by Summit. 20 video. Yeah, that's hot. I love it. Ruby's like, noted. Accountability. Write that one down. So Matt, let's close it out and let's synthesize from your standpoint. If somebody was listening to you right now and they're like, okay, Matt, just what are the 5 things? What are the 5 things that really summarize this culture you've created, this methodology that you've amplified? What are those? I'm saying 5, could be 3, could be 14, but like just simply, what is the process? What do you recommend?
Well, I think you got to have somebody that owns it. You got to have a system. You got to have a calendar. You got to operationalize this if you're going to really do it, consistent and at a high
scale.
Level. Yep. And don't, a lot of people want to, you don't have to start with what we're doing. Just pick your 10 VIP clients and do something for them.
Right.
Once a quarter or twice a year or something like that. But what excites you? I mean, do you love doing client events? Do you, what's in your lane? And I would say just adopt that first. But I don't know that there's just 1 or 2 things, Todd, because everything we do just kind of works. It's like this tool belt and everything works together. Yeah. It's not the client event. It's not the pop buys or the handwritten birthday cards or the surprise and delight. It's the collective.
Yes.
And it just, you create some really great raving fans. So
yeah, I think it's all, you're exactly right. It's all those pieces that make the puzzle. So when you step back and look and say 110, happy clients, right? 110 happy families in a year, it was all of that. I also want to give a shout out to Donna Miller's book, Building a Story Brand, which is an epic book, raving fans, power of moments. And I'd say John Rowland's book, Giftology, right? John, he always says, when you're taking on a campaign like this, he's like, you have to be thinking to yourself, I'm doing this for the next 3 years, right? Which, we've heard with like, hey, geographic farming. You don't send out a mailer. Right. You're saying, I'm committing myself to this neighborhood, to this community, to be the mayor, to be the guide. And it's a 3, 5, 10-year process. And then you own it, right? Thoughts on timing on this? Because what we don't want is so much people dabbling is, and you said it, we dabbled in this, but then we went all in.
Right. Yeah, I would say, first of all, create things that you can repeat and scale, and you don't get out of budget or they're too. So let me give you an example, Tom.
Yeah.
We were doing limousine closings where you would show up to get your keys. What you didn't know is while we were inside, a limousine pulled up out front. You came up the red carpet, we took you out to the limo. We put you into the limo with cider or champagne. We take you out to dinner. We probably don't go with you usually, but it's all set up.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But man, you want to try and do that for 150 people this year? Like, it's crazy to try and coordinate that.
Right.
That didn't work.
You're like, I need to buy a limousine, get a driver. What if I have 2 closings in the same day? How do I sanitize the limo? Right.
But so how can we create systems that are scalable and just constantly looking at what we're doing and how we're doing it? Mm-hmm. I forgot.
That's another brilliant insight, by the way, Matt. Like, hey, this process, we loved it. It worked, but it didn't scale. So we had to stop it. And a lot of people, instead of stopping to scale, will just stop growth.
Yeah.
This is just how you didn't say it that way, but that's what you meant. Like, that's how I heard it.
Yeah. So like Popeyes, like we're doing Popeyes for a lot of our, best clients and things, but it keeps changing. Now what we're finally doing is say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do it quarterly, and we're going to go geographically. And this quarter, this spring, we're going to get this section of town. Right. Summer, we're going to do that section. We're going to rotate it. But now here's the cool thing, the relevant pop buy thing for this quarter, when we rotate the geographic over the next year, I can do the same gift 4 times for 4 years and just rotate the people.
Exactly.
So it's not, if you really think through it strategically, it's a lot easier to do that. And then you plan it all out in a project management system, when it's happening, who's getting it, how much it costs, all that type of stuff.
Yeah. Brother, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so grateful for the work that you do and the way you operate, and that you're willing to just get on here and share everything that you're sharing. So Matt Farnham, Team Farnham Real Estate in Las Vegas, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be there July 9th. Maybe I can see you. Big shout out. I'm going to see Joe Rogan and Dave Chappelle. I can't wait with my 2 sons. It's going to be bonkers. And I know you got a country western thing the next night, so maybe we can get together and say hi at least.
Well, hopefully I'm figuring out how to sell those tickets because I'm at a Golden Knights Stanley Cup Finals game. That's what
even better. Let's go Knights. All right, Matt, thank you so much for your time. And obviously if they just Google you, they're going to see your Google My Business page. They're going to see all your reviews. They're going to start seeing videos of testimonies. Emails on there, websites on there, cell phones on there. All of his social channels are all linked up to his GMB, his Google My Business page. And if you're listening, yours should be done the same. Closing thoughts, Matt, as we wrap it up?
I would just say, I'll just tell you from experience, there's no more fun way to do business than just treating your clients like royalty. It's gratifying for you. I promise it works in referrals. And it sounds like a lot of money to do the surprise and delight and the crazy stuff that we're doing. But frankly, it's less expensive than the thousands and thousands that people are paying for lead sources and things like that.
I love it, man. I appreciate it. All right. So listen, my friends, hey, if you're listening to this right now, hey, make a comment. I would love it. Let me know what else you want covered on podcasts. Your feedback means the world to me, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or Podbean, or wherever you're listening to this. So Matt, I will see you soon. And for my friends listening, we are out.